Leonardo DiCaprio, one of the most beloved actors in the world, known for his humility and generosity, has always believed that success only matters when shared. But behind the scenes, few know that he invested part of his fortune to build a hospital, a place where everyone would be treated with dignity, regardless of their financial status. One day, driven by a feeling and some concerning reports, he decides to visit his own hospital. But without revealing his identity, he decides to go as an ordinary patient. He walks through the reception doors. Expecting to see empathy and professionalism, he finds something that shocks him to the core. In charge of the emergency ward is an arrogant doctor who abuses his power, treating patients with contempt, humiliating those who need help, and deciding who deserves to be seen. But what this doctor doesn't know is that among the people he is mistreating is the true owner of the hospital, Leonardo. He watches everything in silence, holding back his indignation. But how long will he stay quiet? Expecting to see empathy and professionalism, he encounters a doctor who insults patients and picks and chooses who gets treatment. This wasn't just a bad doctor's behavior. It was a whole system allowing such actions to flourish. DiCaprio decides to investigate. That evening, in his old black motorcycle, wearing a worn-out jacket and faded jeans, he heads to the hospital to become just another patient. When he walks through the doors, no one recognizes him. He's just another face in the crowd. He heads to the reception desk, where a tired woman is typing something on her computer, not looking up. Leonardo waits patiently. "Good evening. I would like to schedule a consultation," he says. The receptionist finally looks up, glances at his simple clothes, and her expression becomes impatient. "Name?" she asks, typing his details into the system. "Leonardo." She raises an eyebrow but continues typing. "Insurance?" "I prefer to pay in cash," he replies. She rolls her eyes, sighs, and hands him a small slip of paper. "Wait your turn. It's going to take a while." Leonardo takes the paper without complaint and walks to the waiting area, sitting between an elderly man with a pained expression and a mother holding a feverish child. As he sits there, he begins observing everything around him. The desperate young mother holds her sick baby, who is burning with fever. Her chest rises and falls rapidly with each breath, and she is on the verge of tears. The mother stands up and approaches the receptionist. "Please, my baby is very sick. He needs a doctor now." The receptionist doesn't even look up. "Ma'am, I already told you, you need to wait your turn." "But he's getting worse," the mother exclaims. The receptionist rolls her eyes, her irritation clear. "If you're so worried, maybe you should take him to a public hospital. Here, we follow the rules." Leonardo clenches his fists. He sees the elderly man next to him clutching his chest, breathing heavily, trying to call for a nurse. A young nurse walks by without stopping, just giving him a brief glance and saying, "Sir, I can't stop everything for every little pain. Just wait your turn." The elderly man groans in pain, slightly doubling over, and Leonardo feels his blood boil. He lifts his gaze and sees a man in a tailored suit walking past the reception desk. He doesn't need a number. He doesn't need to wait. The staff smiles at him and quickly makes way. "Doctor, Javier is expecting you, sir. You can go right in." Leonardo watches the hypocrisy unfold. The rich are treated like royalty, while those who need help the most are ignored. His jaw tightens, but he takes a slow breath. He needs to see more before acting. After a few minutes, Leonardo stands up and walks back to the reception desk. "Excuse me," he says, looking at the receptionist, who is already annoyed. "I noticed that the mother with the baby and the elderly man clutching his chest seem to need urgent help. Is there nothing that can be done for them?" The receptionist frowns, irritated. "I already told you, everyone has to wait their turn. Those are the rules." Leonardo remains silent for a moment, his dark eyes analyzing the situation. "Rules can be broken when a life is at risk," he says quietly. She huffs. "And what makes you think you know more than the doctors?" Leonardo doesn't answer right away, just gives a small smirk, shakes his head slightly, and walks back to his seat. He's already seen enough. This hospital isn't what he envisioned. Something is deeply wrong, and he is going to fix it. A few minutes later, Leonardo stands up and decides to walk through the hospital again, trying to take it all in. The noise, the busy nurses, the crowded waiting area. He looks around, wondering what will be the best approach to make things better. He's not going to stand by and watch it happen any longer. A loud scream interrupts his thoughts. The young mother with the feverish baby runs toward Dr. Javier, clutching her child. "Doctor, please, my baby is burning up. He needs help now." Dr. Javier pauses mid-stride, lazily scanning the woman from head to toe. His expression is one of disgust, like someone who stepped in something unpleasant. He rolls his eyes, takes a slow sip of coffee, then speaks. "If he's sick, then wait like everyone else. This hospital is not a daycare." The mother freezes, shocked by his cruelty. "But he could be seriously ill. He's getting weaker," she says. Dr. Javier sighs impatiently and leans slightly toward her. "Listen carefully. Do you think you're the only one with problems here? If I stopped everything for every kid with the flu, this hospital would go bankrupt." Leonardo, sitting in the waiting area, feels his blood boil. His jaw tightens, his hands clench slightly, but he remains outwardly calm. Inside, his indignation grows by the second. Dr. Javier continues walking as though the scene had never happened. Two nearby nurses exchange uneasy glances, but don't dare to speak up. Leonardo notices something important at that moment: fear. The staff knows who Dr. Javier is, but no one dares to confront him. The mother returns to her seat, silently crying, holding her child close. Leonardo glances at the elderly man beside him, still clutching his chest, struggling to breathe. "Sir, are you okay?" Leonardo asks gently. The man forces a tired smile, as if he's used to being ignored. "I've been through worse. I just have to wait." Leonardo closes his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. He now fully realizes what the patients and staff have been warning him about. Something needs to change. A few minutes later, a young man with a deep cut on his hand enters the reception area, holding a blood-soaked cloth against the wound, his face a mix of pain and urgency. "Please, I need help," he says. The receptionist nods casually and directs him to Dr. Javier's office. Leonardo leans forward slightly in his seat, curious to see how the doctor will handle the situation. The young man steps into the consultation room, but just seconds later, Dr. Javier's voice rings through the corridor, loud and mocking. "Are you serious? You came here for that?" The hospital goes silent for a moment. The young man hesitates. "Doctor, it's bleeding a lot and really hurts," he says. Dr. Javier lets out a sarcastic laugh. "It's just a scratch, kid. Put some alcohol on it and go home." Leonardo watches with a cold, unreadable expression as the young man pauses, clearly humiliated. Dr. Javier waves him off impatiently. "There are people dying in here, and you expect me to waste my time on a little cut?" The boy lowers his head, embarrassed, and walks out without receiving proper treatment. As he passes by, Leonardo stands up and approaches him. "Let me see your hand." The young man looks up, surprised. "Who are you?" he asks. Leonardo gives him a calm, reassuring smile. "Just someone who cares." He takes a clean handkerchief from his pocket and presses it against the boy's wound. Across the room, Dr. Javier watches the scene with a mixture of irritation and amusement. He has no idea who is standing in front of him, and if he did, he would have been much more careful with the words he was about to say. Dr. Javier keeps sitting at his desk, unaware that his fate is in the hands of the man who is silently observing him. Leonardo watches, but he doesn't respond. Instead, he notices that the whole system is broken, from the way the hospital is run to the way the staff is treated. He knows that more needs to be done than just confronting one arrogant doctor. This is about fixing a system that has become indifferent to the needs of its patients. After a long wait, Leonardo's name is finally called. "Next patient, Leonardo." The receptionist glances at the form, but doesn't bother to ask his last name. He slowly stands up, takes a deep breath, and walks toward Dr. Javier's office. When he enters, he finds Dr. Javier sitting behind his desk, typing on his computer without even looking up. The office is clean and minimalistic, but feels cold and impersonal. Dr. Javier continues typing, clearly bored, and mutters, "So, what's the problem?" Leonardo studies him for a moment before responding calmly. "I've been feeling extreme fatigue and muscle pain. I'd like a full checkup." Dr. Javier finally lifts his gaze and looks at Leonardo for the first time. His eyes scan Leonardo's simple clothing, the old jacket, the worn-out jeans, his composed posture. Dr. Javier frowns as if analyzing someone who clearly doesn't belong there. Then he smirks slightly, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Where are you from?" Leonardo raises an eyebrow slightly. Why? Dr. Javier leans back in his chair, crossing his arms. Because hospitals like this aren't for just anyone. Silence fills the room as Leonardo doesn't move, his expression remaining neutral. He's been through much worse in his life, has heard all kinds of prejudice, and has been underestimated countless times. But this is the first time someone has said something like this to him in a hospital that he himself built. Dr. Javier sighs, still holding on to his smug expression. All right, let's get this over with. He picks up his stethoscope with obvious reluctance, as if performing the examination is beneath him. Take a deep breath. Leonardo complies. The doctor barely listens before asking a few basic questions, not paying much attention to the answers. In less than 3 minutes, he grabs his pen to fill out the medical form. You don't have anything serious, he says, tossing the paper onto the desk. Take some painkillers and get some rest. Leonardo glances at the form and then back at the doctor. That's it? Dr. Javier leans forward, clearly bored with the conversation. That's it? What, was it something serious? You didn't run any tests. You didn't ask for my medical history. Dr. Javier lets out a short, dry laugh. Look, buddy, I see dozens of people every day. I know when someone has something serious and when they're just dealing with common fatigue. Leonardo stays silent for a moment, crossing his arms. Could you explain to me exactly what's wrong with me? Dr. Javier rolls his eyes. I already told you, you're fine. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more important patients to see. Leonardo doesn't leave. He clenches his fists, his eyes sharp as knives. I would like to know what's really going on with this place. How do you assess your actions? Dr. Javier continues to behave arrogantly, confident that he can manipulate everyone, even those with more power. But Leonardo isn't backing down. You're not just rude. You genuinely believe that some lives are worth more than others, and that's not just a bad attitude. That's a moral failure. Leonardo slowly stands up and walks toward the door. Before leaving, he pauses and looks back at the doctor one last time. It's a calm but piercing gaze. Dr. Javier notices and raises an eyebrow, confused. What? He asks, irritated. Leonardo gives a slight smile, but it's not a friendly one. Thank you for your time, doctor. I hope you treat the other patients with more respect than you treated me. Dr. Javier lets out a short, amused chuckle. Oh yeah, and who are you to lecture me? Leonardo doesn't answer. He simply turns and walks out, closing the door behind him. Before Leonardo can take more than a few steps down the corridor, a nurse quietly grabs his arm. Sir, I'm so sorry about what happened in there, she whispers, looking around to make sure no one is overhearing. Leonardo turns to her with a curious gaze. Is it always like this? He asks quietly. The nurse lowers her head in shame. Yes, but no one dares to challenge him. He's untouchable. Leonardo remains silent for a few seconds, processing everything. He knows now that the problem isn't just one arrogant doctor, but a broken system that needs to be fixed. Leonardo continues walking down the hospital corridor, his thoughts clear. He's seen enough. This hospital, meant to be a place of healing and care, has turned into a system that exploits the weak and rewards the powerful. He can't just stand by. He has to act. He heads toward a secluded area where the staff takes breaks. If anyone knows what's truly going on here, it's the people who work directly with patients every day, the nurses, receptionists, and technicians. Leonardo stops near a slightly open door and overhears muffled voices inside. A group of nurses is talking in hushed tones, but their frustration is clear. Doctor, Javier humiliated another patient today, says one nurse. Again? He always does that, another nurse responds. But who dares report him? Management protects him. Leonardo's brow furrows as he listens intently. A younger nurse speaks up. If anyone complains, he finds a way to get back at them. Cuts their hours, gives them bad shifts, or bad performance reviews. The conversation continues, and one detail catches Leonardo's attention. Management protects him. His jaw tightens. The problem isn't just one doctor. It's a whole system that allows this behavior to continue. Stepping forward, Leonardo reveals himself to the employees who immediately fall silent. They don't recognize him at first, but they are clearly surprised to see a patient in this area. One of the nurses hesitantly speaks. Sir, you heard everything? Leonardo nods slowly. Yes, and I want to understand more about what's happening in this hospital. The The staff exchange uncertain glances, but one nurse finally asks, "Who are you?" Leonardo doesn't answer immediately, knowing that now is not the time to reveal his identity. "I'm just someone who believes people should be treated with dignity," he replies. The first nurse hesitates for a moment before deciding to trust him. "This goes way beyond doctor. Javier," she says, "management only cares about the numbers. They don't care if patients suffer as long as the reports show high efficiency." Dr. Javier is one of the doctors who brings in the best numbers, the nurse continues. He keeps the hospital's numbers high because he rushes through cases. If a patient complains, he ignores them. If a test should be run, he skips it to save time. Leonardo feels his stomach tighten. So, that's it. It's not just about an arrogant doctor, it's a whole system that enables this behavior. He realizes that if he wants to change things, firing one doctor isn't enough. The entire corrupt structure must be brought down. "We need to fix this from the top down," he thinks, "and I'm the one who will do it." After speaking with the staff, Leonardo returns to the waiting room, observing the patients who are still waiting. An elderly woman clutches her purse, waiting for hours. The young man who was humiliated by Dr. Javier is still there, pressing a dirty cloth against his wound, too afraid to ask for help again. The mother with the feverish baby is sitting in the same spot, rocking her child in her arms, exhausted and silently crying. Leonardo feels his chest tighten. He can't let this continue. He's seen enough. It's time to act. Before leaving the hospital, Leonardo walks up to one of the security guards. "I'd like to speak with the hospital administrator," he says. The guard frowns, confused. "About what?" Leonardo gives a small, enigmatic smile. "He's going to want to hear me out." The guard hesitates but picks up the phone and makes the call. A few minutes later, Leonardo is led into a conference room where the hospital's chief administrator is waiting for him. The administrator, a middle-aged man with graying hair and a stern expression, sits with his arms crossed. "What do you want?" he asks, clearly impatient. Leonardo walks forward slowly, sitting down at the table with a calm but firm posture. He locks eyes with the administrator before finally speaking. "My name is Leonardo DiCaprio." The room falls into absolute silence. The administrator freezes, his face paling slightly. The guards around them exchange confused glances. Leonardo crosses his arms and continues. "And I am the owner of this hospital." The administrator swallows hard, realizing the magnitude of the situation. Leonardo's voice remains calm but unwavering. "It seems we have a serious problem here, and I intend to fix it right now." The administrator feels a chill run down his spine. He never expected that on this night, a simple-looking man would sit in front of him and say the words he had just heard. "Leonardo DiCaprio, the owner of the hospital," he mutters, disbelief etched on his face. Leonardo gives a slight nod. "Yes." The security guards exchange looks, and a nurse who had been standing in the room covers her mouth in shock. The administrator tries to regain his composure, adjusting his collar. "Well, Mr. DiCaprio, if I had known you were here, we would have ensured a more appropriate level of care." Leonardo narrows his eyes, his expression cold. "And why would I need special treatment?" The administrator swallows hard, realizing that he has just exposed himself. I just meant that... You meant that some people here receive better treatment than others." Leonardo cuts him off. The administrator falls silent. Leonardo leans slightly forward, resting his elbows on the table. "I saw everything. I saw how the humble are treated here. I saw the disregard for patients who need help the most. I saw Dr. Javier humiliating a desperate mother and denying care to an injured young man. I saw employees afraid to report abuse because they know they'll face retaliation." The administrator begins to sweat, struggling to maintain his facade. "Mr. DiCaprio, I understand your concerns, but we have to be realistic. Dr. Javier is one of our most efficient doctors. He keeps the numbers high." Leonardo raises a hand, cutting him off. "Numbers?" His tone is sharp and cutting. "You think numbers are more important than human lives?" The administrator opens his mouth, but no words come out. "If your hospital maintains high numbers at the cost of human dignity, then it has completely failed." The nurse, who had been silent until now, finally gathers the courage to speak. "He's right. Everyone here knows what Dr. Javier does, but no one dares report him. We've tried, but we're always silenced." Leonardo turns to her, his expression filled with respect. That ends today. The administrator stands frozen, feeling the weight of Leonardo's words. Leonardo slowly stands up, his presence commanding the room. He looks directly at one of the security guards. "Bring Dr. Javier here now." A few minutes later, the doors to the conference room swing open. Dr. Javier walks in with confident strides, his face still full of arrogance. "Why the hell was I called in at this hour?" he grumbles, looking around. Then his eyes land on Leonardo DiCaprio. His expression freezes as he begins to process the situation. "Who is this?" he asks, clearly confused. The administrator hesitates for a moment before answering tensely. "He's the owner of the hospital." Dr. Javier freezes completely, his face draining of color. "What?" he gasps. Leonardo crosses his arms and stares directly at him. "So, you're the great doctor, Javier?" Dr. Javier is still trying to process what is happening, but Leonardo doesn't wait for him to respond. "I saw everything. I saw how you treat patients, how you ignore those who need help, how you humiliate vulnerable people just because you can." Dr. Javier tries to chuckle, though his voice sounds tense. "Look, I'm just doing my job. I'm not here to babysit people." "Your job?" Leonardo repeats, leaning in slightly. "Your job is to care for people, not treat them like garbage." Dr. Javier loses his smirk, now visibly irritated. "I'm an excellent doctor. My numbers prove it." Leonardo shakes his head slowly. "If your numbers are so good, then why does everyone here fear you?" The doctor stiffens, unable to answer. Leonardo turns to the administrator. "Doctor, Javier is fired, effective immediately." The room falls into stunned silence. Dr. Javier steps forward, shocked. "You can't do this!" Leonardo holds his gaze steady. "I can, and I did." The doctor lets out an angry growl, but the security guards are already beside him, ready to escort him out. Before he is removed, Leonardo gives him one final warning. "And if I ever hear of you working at another hospital and treating patients this way, I'll make sure you never practice medicine again." Dr. Javier is dragged out of the room, humiliated and defeated. After Dr. Javier is gone, Leonardo turns to the hospital administrator. The changes start now. The employees in the room look at him with hope in their eyes. "I want an anonymous reporting system for abuse inside this hospital. I want every employee to go through empathy and patient care training. I want patients to be treated with dignity, no matter their financial status." The nurse, who has been silent until now, smiles, her eyes welling with tears. "Is this really possible?" she asks. Leonardo smiles back. "Yes, and we're going to do it together." The administrator, realizing resistance is futile, finally nods in agreement. "Yes, Mr. DiCaprio, we'll make it happen." A revolution inside the hospital has begun. Over the next few days, the hospital corridors feel lighter. Patients who were once ignored now receive proper care. Employees who once lived in fear of retaliation now work with renewed motivation. The mother with the feverish baby, who had been humiliated days before, returns to the hospital and finally receives the care she needs. The young man with the injured hand is treated with care and respect. The staff, inspired by the changes, begins to feel proud of where they work. A few weeks later, Leonardo returns to the hospital to check on how things are going. He walks through the halls, observing the transformation. As he's about to leave, a small child runs up to him and grabs his hand. Leonardo looks down and sees a 5-year-old boy with bright, curious eyes. "Are you Leonardo DiCaprio, the owner of the hospital?" the boy asks. Leonardo smiles and kneels down to his level. "Yes, that's me," he replies. The boy grins shyly. "Thank you for helping people. The doctors are nice now." Leonardo feels a lump in his throat. He gently ruffles the boy's hair. "Taking care of people is what really matters," he says, standing up. He looks at the hospital, now illuminated against the night sky, and feels that his vision is becoming reality. Respect and compassion are free, but the lack of them comes at a great cost.